And I knew right then and there, I'm not getting paid.
What do you think the biggest mistake people make when opening up an audio engineering business?
My clientele are the more professional artists. They're respectful. There's a couple places I refer to them and I say, this is probably the place for you. You can kind of do whatever you want there.
What's the legacy you want Vocal Inc. to leave in Charlotte?
Yeah, like if you're in a bad room with those mics you have, they could be too much. If you're in a bad room with these, you'll be fine. But if you're in a good room like this with your other mics, then you're good.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the most versatile podcast in the world, The Bean Dip. We are back at Vocal Inc. in Charlotte, North Carolina, the best and biggest studio that I've seen in my lifetime, and I've been to a few. So we're going to go ahead and chop it up with the owner and see what it takes to build a successful business in the music industry. So go ahead and introduce yourself and let them know who you are.
Yeah. Tim Campbell. I own Vocal Inc. Production. Located in Charlotte. For a while, it was Charlotte in Hagerstown, Maryland. Now it's for a while it was Charlotte, Hagerstown, Maryland, and Nashville. Now it's Charlotte and Nashville because I just shut the Hagerstown one down literally 2 weeks ago, I think, roughly. And that's where it all began. You know, I don't know if I'm segueing into any of the topics you want to talk about because you mentioned what it takes, but that is where it began. And
in Maryland, you said?
Yeah, in Maryland, and it's a town called Hagerstown. Some people, I've surprisingly met more than a few people here in Charlotte that's familiar with it, but it's one of those towns that you literally have no reason to go to. It's close enough to Baltimore, but you know, it's still like an hour away. It's kind of an hour from DC and Baltimore. So this is triangle, an hour from DC to Baltimore, you know, together, and then an hour to Hagerstown. But anyways, it's not a music town. It's not really an anything town. It's a drug town.
Right.
It's a town with a jail. And you know, it's just not known for anything. But that's where I'm from. But that's also where the first studio was.
So what was it that got you to initially start and want to go into audio production and make a studio?
Yeah, I don't know, honestly. I don't have a story where I grew up, you know, in a music household where I was always playing an instrument or whatever. We did have like a little music room. I started playing guitar pretty early, but I never took it seriously and I never stuck with it. As a matter of fact, until my 20s, I didn't really stick with anything. I didn't stick with shit. I was into bad stuff. That's a whole topic for another day, one day, maybe, maybe. But it wasn't, it was one of those things where you know, especially when you're early 20s or whatever, or high school, what do I want to do with my life? And I could never come up with it, you know, maybe have an idea for this or that or whatever. But I think I always knew that I didn't want to do just something like a typical corporate job, or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't tell you, you know what I mean? I don't know. But I got a flyer in the mail from Full Sail University, which is where I went to school. It literally went like that, where I was like, oh shit. And it's funny because I never listened to music like, you know, people say, oh, you know, I love music. Everybody loves music. You know what I mean? There's nobody that doesn't like music. Right. People like it more than others. But anyways, so, you know, again, I can't have this backstory where it's like, oh, I was such a music lover, not more than anybody else. And I got this flyer in the mail, and it was for Full Sail University, and it showed the program for audio. I think it had all their programs at the time. This was like 2005. And it had the audio engineering program, and it had some details about it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Let's do that. And that's pretty much how it went. I looked into it a little bit. Fast forward, I don't know, maybe 6 months to a year at the most. Me and my best friend moved down to Orlando, and I went there. So
you went to audio engineering school?
I did. But the funny thing is, though, and this is what I tell people a lot when they ask me, especially with going to Full Sail. Full Sail is a great school.
Right.
Probably the best for music production, at least from what as far as I know, they're probably the best. But I went there knowing nothing about it. Literally nothing. I was in school with people that like had little bedroom studios for a couple of years, and they had already dabbled and were familiar with these. I didn't know shit. And I left there knowing a little bit more than jack shit. So it's like I didn't graduate and was like, all right, cool. Yeah, now I'm an expert. I was a terrible student. But that is what I tell people. I say, look, I went there knowing nothing. I left there knowing barely anything. You know what I mean? So up to you. I was like, but I was a terrible student. So don't, choose however you want. But what happened was anyway, so I graduated and I learned nothing from there, but I had this degree that was very expensive. And I was like, okay, well, now I got to do something. I can't let this go to waste. Because my sister did that. She went to college for a couple things and doesn't do anything with it.
It's usually how it goes.
It is usually how it goes. And especially with this industry or entertainment industry, people go to school for it, and it's not necessary. It's just not. You could get extra benefit from maybe film school, recording school, whatever, but it's not necessary because everything that I know now, which now I am an expert, and now I do know a lot about production, engineering.
And music theory?
Music theory. All that I learned after because I realized, okay, cool, I fucked off for a little too long and now I have a degree, so let's use it,
Right.
And yeah, so I started a little studio in my mom's house in an extra room that she had with like barely anything.
That's how it starts.
Yeah, exactly. A couple pieces here and there, and kind of like what you and I were talking about before you hit record, and was recording people that were just willing to come, for free. It's like, look, I don't know what I'm doing really. But hey, if you're willing to sit there while I figure shit out and be patient, let's do it. And that's basically what I did for a while, for a couple years.
Yeah, you have to do a lot of free grunt work for years before you get established, because that's how you have to start. Like the first 10 years are also the hardest.
Right.
How long have you been doing this?
Let's see, I graduated 2008.
Also a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. So, but I don't count a lot of those first years because from 2008, when I graduated. Let's say sometime in 2008, I was when I started building the studio at her house, and I was like all about it, man. I was obsessed with it. Okay, like probably more obsessed with it than I am now, and I'm still very obsessed with it.
No, that's good.
Yeah, it is good. Well, it's good if you want to keep growing. And, right. But there was a point where it became a pipe dream where I stayed in this little town, and it's literally a town where dreams just die unless you leave. And I was in this little town, and that's what happened. After a while, I was like, well, this isn't going to work out. I didn't ever consider owning a studio. I didn't think I wanted to own a studio. And there definitely wasn't studios around there to work at. DC and Baltimore, no. I learned quickly that the industry is very much, you kind of are your own boss no matter where you go. There's not too many studios handing out jobs like, oh, turn in your resume, or on Indeed.com is posting, studios are posting listings for audio engineer. Yeah. Typically those are for big companies like video game companies and places like that. So anyways, I just thought that it would never work out, and I took a job at a TV station, and I was like, I guess I'll go this route.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how did you end up in Charlotte from Maryland to here?
Well, me and my girlfriend, now fiance, one day we were talking. We had been together for 3 years at this point, and we were talking about leaving that town because we knew we had to leave. You have to leave that town. You can't stay there unless you want to live like a real simple life, which is cool. We didn't want that. So we talked about where we would leave. I said Nashville, of course. And she's like, well, because she's a nurse. So she knows that wherever we go, she'll be fine. She will get a job.
Yeah.
She's a really, really, really good nurse and one of the most likable people literally you'll ever meet. I swear to God. So she's set, and she knows that wherever we go. So we have to look at it like my credentials is where that's going to travel. And I, of course, said Nashville. She said Nashville is oversaturated, which is true. So she said she always thought about moving to North Carolina. Yeah, I had never considered
There's a lot in Nashville. That's where like all the country artists
are. There's a good bit of rock there too.
Yeah, country rock. Yeah. Dang. Okay, so then you came to Charlotte.
Yeah. Well, it was her idea.
Yeah, it was her idea.
Well, she said Charlotte or Raleigh, and I was like, that's true. So we took a trip to Raleigh for just a random weekend trip. I was like, Raleigh's cool. A couple months later, we took a trip to Charlotte. I was like, if we're going to do this, let's go to Charlotte. A couple months later, we took another trip to Charlotte just to see it again, and I said, yeah, let's do Charlotte.
When was this?
About 4 years ago. So probably it had to have been at least about a year before we moved.
Okay.
So we moved December 28th of 2022. 2022, yeah. I just say January 1st, 2023. or 2022. Yeah, either way, we just hit 3 years.
So, I mean, it's only that's still a decent, or it's still relatively new, is what I was meant to say.
It is. It
relatively
definitely is.
new. So you've had this studio here since then.
Yeah, this is so how it went about.
Heck, the studio's sick, bro.
I know. Thank you. I know. I agree. I'm not bragging or anything, because trust me, I can, because I could barely. This place was not easy to get, and I still pinch myself sometimes. And let me tell you that story.
So I pinch myself because I must be dreaming.
Yeah. Because I've never would have thought this is the type of place you put on your vision board when you're trying to manifest up your stuff.
Yeah, this is the picture you have on your wall when you're like, I'm gonna attain that one day.
Right,
For you, this is the studio.
Kind of, yeah.
For me, it's a $100,000 camera.
There you go, exactly.
So
again, which you will have, I promise you.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah,
that's the plan, bro.
I know. So, anyways, what happened was we're like, okay, cool, Charlotte, it is. And we owned a house together. We didn't have any plan to leave. We knew it was going to be a process. So what I had to find first was, the goal at that time was to buy like a commercial building. And in the trips we took here, I saw tons with signs. We would look for that, like, a small commercial space that I could convert to a studio. Really what we wanted was something cool where it's like a commercial 2-floor facility where we could have a cool little studio at the bottom and maybe live up top, and then eventually rent that out as like an Airbnb. So I would go on Google and I would look, and nothing would pop up. Or there'd be these like massive factories that are $5-6 million, way more than I can afford
at the time.
Yeah, well, even now, shit. I'm not, it's actually more now than then. But so I would stop looking, and we go about our life. A couple months would go by, and I'd look again. And I was just Googling commercial real estate, Charlotte, North Carolina, and wouldn't find anything. A couple months would go by. There might be a couple things I'd see, like, that's kind of cool, so I'd save that. The third time I searched, aimlessly searching with no intention of moving, this place was the first thing I clicked on. And I didn't even know what it was. It was just right on top, boom, and it said recording studio, and it was already done. All this shit you see here, other than that couch too, actually. But like all this stuff was already here.
Oh, it was already built.
Done. It was already built. And
was it a studio before?
Yes.
Oh, yes. That makes sense.
So,
okay.
I basically, long ass story short, I called the owner and I was like, I want to come down and see it. We planned the next week. We went down because I needed to touch it and feel it and whatever. And the owner's such a cool guy. So we became fast friends. And the nice thing about it was he had it listed for 4 years. So it had been on the market for a while. DaBaby tried buying it. Who else? There was a couple of places, but there was like a film company that was started low and were getting close to an acceptable offer from him. They were in negotiations. And he told me that. He said, just so you know, that there is a party that's getting close to what I would accept as an offer. And I was like, okay, cool. Hold them all for like, give me a month just to like start talking to banks. He's like, okay. And he did that. So I just immediately start calling banks and just to see where I'm at. Said, this is what I can afford down. What can I do?
To buy or rent?
To buy it.
It was for sale. You own this?
I own this. It was like the guy I bought it from he didn't want to rent it out. He wanted it done. Elevation was renting it and he wanted out of it. He didn't need it. He has a cool little home studio for what he does. He's a film composer, basically. Right. So he doesn't need all this. He did at one point, apparently, but yeah. And, it worked out. I was able to get it.
No, that's it.
I know, it's cool. But it's just one thing I learned, man, is that as much as Charlotte is 100 million times better of a town than where I'm from, it's not much of a music town, and I overestimated it before I moved here. Mm-hmm. I really thought that it was more of a music town than it is, and unfortunately it's not. And it is enough, you know what I mean? So it's like, and I'm busy enough, but it's like, I don't know. It's just not what I expected with that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the Charlotte music industry because the last couple of people that I interviewed have said that the music scene in Charlotte is non-existent. Yeah. So how do you go about, or how would you even touch on that? Like, so you would agree that it's non-existent?
I don't think it's non-existent because there's a lot of like natives that I've talked to about it, and they would say very similar things where they would say, it's not that it's non-existent, it's just you got to find it or whatever, or it's there, but they're like kind of, this is happening over here. You know what I mean? If you don't know about it, you may not know about it. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's non-existent. I just don't think it's that big of one.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And as far as an industry goes, there's meaning like the same way Nashville or LA or New York has industry, as in like record labels are there. They have headquarters of other companies, production companies that need to be there. I think that's non-existent here because there's not, I don't know, but I also think that maybe with the film companies, they're going to kind of start increasing more with it. Maybe.
So with the other companies and other studios in Charlotte, how do you kind of, I guess, navigate your way through when there's like other competitions? Because you have like the Baby out here, you have guys like Rich Dunk. I know 10 Cell Phones makes money, and he's kind of a big like hot commodity in Charlotte. You know,
hold on a second. Okay, 10 Cell Phones. I was talking about that yesterday with my barber, and there was a guy, because I know a guy called 10 House Phones, and I thought that's who he was talking about.
Yo, 10 House Phones?
I swear to God.
Yeah, because there's a guy named 10 Cell Phones, the real 10 Cell Phones.
That's what he said. And I was like, no, it's 10 House Phones.
Yeah, that's funny.
Bro.
Yeah, I mean, I know he makes music, and I've met him before because I've seen like some of his people shooting like music videos and stuff.
He's pretty big?
I mean, he got like a lot of followers.
Really?
He does like a lot of firearm stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's cool.
What do you mean, like gangster firearms?
No.
Oh,
like he's like super safe, and
Gotcha.
Yeah, he
that's
does.
Cool.
Yeah, like he goes to like gun range, and he's like, check out. He posts some like really sick stuff.
See, that's cool.
No,
because that's what I'm used to is the guys that are like
flaunting. Yeah, because I don't do music videos for that reason.
I'm sure
you know,
you don't.
I don't want to get shot.
Yeah,
and so you have guys like the Baby, him. Rich Dunk, and that's the only people that I can really think of. But that's so what do you have? $1 billion entertainment.
Yeah, but they're not. So I know DaBaby's engineer. DaBaby has a home studio. He does it all there. When he needs him, he calls him up and they do it.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be getting somebody like him. With these rap guys, and this is also again coming from Chris, the guy that works with DaBaby regularly. He even said it that you pretty much have to allow smoking in your studio for these guys. And I don't. That is, I'm cool about a lot of stuff, man. And I've let a lot of stuff slide, but the one thing is the smoking. And it's also the thing that you can't sneak because we're going to smell it. And we tried it. I bought these big smoke eaters one day when I first moved here. And it was with Chris when he was working out of here in the back control room. And I was like, all right, look, because he said that if you can allow it, he could probably rope in a lot more bigger artists.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Because they like to smoke and drink, and it's the part of the industry where you do the drugs. I know.
I just thought it was so. The thing that annoys me the most with that is that like you come here, you see this is like ground level. There's a back door and a front door. You come after 5 o'clock. There's nobody around. The weather here usually isn't that bad. Why? What's the problem with going outside? That's just my biggest thing is why is it? Because there have been people that called and that was one of their first questions is, can you smoke in there? And I say, no.
I did hear you say that the other day. Like, you can't smoke in here. Yeah. I did hear you say that.
And they'll hang up on me once they hear that. Some people are nice about it, but most of them are assholes about it. They're total assholes. Once they find out that, it's like it used to annoy me. Now I learned that they're somebody that they're not my customer. They're not my clientele. My clientele are the more professional artists. They're respectful because I know big time rappers that apparently go into studios. They're not allowed to smoke and they want to. And most of them I've heard are fine with it. It's the not famous people that are douchebags about it, which is go figure, but it's also hilarious.
Right.
So anyways, I've always just kind of thought that was so stupid, but I forget what we were talking.
I was asking you about how you basically maneuver through the industry with all these other places.
You have to be found. That's my biggest thing. You just have to be found when someone needs you. And when someone's looking for a studio, if they don't come across you by accident, maybe on Instagram or whatever, you just need to be able to be found when they're looking for you. And so because there's not a bunch of celebrities here, you have to hopefully catch them when they're coming through, which has happened. Or if they're I'm trying to think of a good example. When I did the Bojangles commercial here and Lee Bryce and Dale Earnhardt came. Yeah, it was nice because they happened to already be filming it in Charlotte, probably because of Dale Jr., the NASCAR driver, lives in Charlotte.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of them do.
Yeah, I know it's like prominent here. But okay,
yeah. So he no, you're good. So he And then Lee Bryce is, I mean, Nashville's not that far away. I think he's from South Carolina. So, but anyways, they needed a space that was big, that was soundproof and whatever else needs. And there I was, and they found me. So to answer your question, you got to be able to be found, and, you're going to get mostly not big artists. That's just how it is.
Right.
I mean, most artists are independent anyways. And that's what you're going to get. So they're self-funded. They don't have, so you're going to be charging them more than what they make. Almost 100% of the time, you got to understand so I just kind of look at it like, hopefully when a serious enough artist it's kind of like a person that wants to get a really good tattoo. Because there's tattoo artists out there that are charging $300 an hour, which is freaking crazy. But
more than that now.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's
and
insane.
you wait like 3 years to get to some of these guys. So anyways, I try to compare it to that, where it's like, you got to be the guy that can get them in when they can get in, hopefully, within reason, and that being competitive with price is tricky too, because like I don't charge even really as much as I should for what it costs to run this place. I don't charge that much, but because Charlotte seems to have this like low base level of price per hour for studios, to be competitive, I've just got to stay close to that number. And I'm only $10, $20 an hour more per hour than some of these other small, tiny studios. And cost per, it just doesn't add up, but it is what it is. So to answer your question is to, when they're looking for you, you need to be found. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten lucky. My Google presence is really good.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to ask you how you do your marketing and
Google.
Okay, so just Google and like Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Okay, so you just base all your clients just based off of like the reviews and the Instagram and like the posting and stuff. Yep. So what type of clients do you normally get in and out of here?
I get a good mix here, which is nice, because up in Maryland is mostly rap, and I wanted to get away from that. Not that I wanted to get entirely away from rap, but it was.
They can be difficult to work with sometimes.
That, yes.
That's my issue.
That, yes. And I've always said this, and this is something that's no secret. People that know me know that the only time that I've had problems in the studio was with rappers. Now, I have to follow it up by saying it's not all rappers. Most of them are fine. But it's just the truth. It's literally a truth that the only time that I've had major issues was with a fucking rapper. And it was always with these like no-name dudes, either not paying,
not wanting to pay, haggling,
right? That
flaunting money and not coming up.
Yeah, no, that's the funniest one right there. Is that rap about being rich, but at the end of the session they don't have. That rarely happened. One of the issues I had pretty regularly was when someone would call and they want to kind of get in right then and there or shortly after, and you can't do that because it's like, bro, I'm literally in a session or I'm not even there, and they want to get in right there for 1 hour, something stupid, and you're like, sorry, man, I can't, and they get pissed at you. And, I don't know, usually they'll just hang up. But here, it hasn't been that big of an issue. Here, it's been a good mix, to answer your question. It's been a good mix of, we get a good bit of gospel, of course, because we're down here. And I've gotten some decent bit of like rock bands, some rappers and singers, and voiceovers, audiobooks. I've done some voiceovers for like cartoons and some commercials and things like that. I like those because those sessions are so easy to do.
Right.
But it's a really nice mix here, and the clientele caliber here has been way higher than I'm used to, and I think it's because when people see a place like this, they know that it's just not some shithole that's, we go there and turn up and whatever. So those guys that are calling looking for that, they'll probably not even call because they know that's probably not the place for me.
Right.
And if they do call, there's a couple places I refer to them and I say, this is probably the place for you. You can kind of do whatever you want there. And now I'm just like, y'all, you can have them. You know what I mean? Like, take them because I don't want to deal with it.
So when it comes to the equipment that you possess here in this location, what do you think separates you from other places as far as equipment goes?
Well, a lot of
what
these,
do you have to offer?
A lot of these studios that are, I kind of call them hip hop only studios because there's not only their equipment, but their engineers in their rooms, you could tell can only accommodate like a single vocal. Yeah, maybe they get singers, but I still call them hip hop only studios because that's really all you see them doing. They mix vocals and that's it. They record vocals and that's it. Maybe the occasional guitar plugged in. So what sets this studio aside from most modern studios is that we have pretty fully analog options that I try to use as much as possible.
I like analog.
Me too. And when it comes to truly professional stuff, yes, you can do a lot digital, and there's plenty of big records out there, because there's always going to be that argument where, oh, you know, so-and-so's album was done all on a computer, or Post Malone used to use just this and that. It's like, that's true. But I'm telling you, man, when you're recording, there's a huge difference between making a beat with like synthesized instruments or samples or whatever, because a lot of the times those sound fine right out of the freaking box. You know what I'm saying? Like you pull a sample in or a loop, that usually sounds pretty good. You don't got to do a lot to it.
Like the ones in the interface.
Yeah, or the ones
like the loops that are already.
Yeah, exactly. Like Apple Loops or Splice and all those, or even just like a synth software instrument. You know, one skill, you got to be able to play keys, but now they've got plugins that eliminate that need now too, which is ridiculous. The real challenge that a lot of these little studios, they don't know how to do and never will, and I think it really sets them aside from real engineering, is like a full band coming in with instruments and starting from nothing, making it sound good. So taking a drum set and getting them, first of all, getting them right at the source, you know what I mean? Like tuning them up right, getting the right mic for the right drum, getting the right room, all that.
I can't even really imagine how working with drums is, because they're loud. They can get loud, and each piece needs its own mic, and then you have to make sure it doesn't echo with the other snare. Yeah,
as best you can, but you get that. Bleed, by the way, is the term you're looking for.
Bleed?
Yeah, bleed.
Bleed,
so,
yes.
like, if your mic is picking me up,
that's bleed.
Right now, that's bleed. Yeah, like
no,
I'm bleeding into your mic. But anyways, that's exactly right, though.
Right.
That's exactly right. So you figure, like samples and shit like that, like these digital drums, you don't get any of that. You put a snare in and a kick in, and you put them together, that kick's not going to see the snare at all. You know what I mean? It's not going to hear it. But you put mics up. But that's where a lot of these small studios, man, I'm talking about some of the ones right around the corner here, they're okay, but they're I don't think that it's true engineering until you're, and I may get a lot of hate for this, I don't know, but I don't think it's true engineering until you know how to take almost any sound and really make it work. Whether it's a freaking rock hitting a fucking ground and you're like, okay, that could be cool. You hear about people like taking a box of rocks or whatever and shaking it and then making that into a loop, shit like that. But even more importantly, just instruments, like recording real instruments, having the right tools in your toolbox. For me, it's these amps, it's the mics and the pedals and all that shit. And, you know, I've got a ridiculous collection, but I like having that stuff.
Right.
I don't know. Like that's what I like to spend money on, because I'm a guitar player. But it is nice when a band or a guitar player comes in, even not a guitar player. Sometimes I get singers, even rappers, and they'll be like, oh, cool, you got all this stuff. Can you throw a guitar on this song for me? I'm like, yeah, cool, fuck it, let's do it. And
I was going to ask about your favorite piece of equipment, which
it'd be amps and guitars.
So that with the guitar so what were you saying? The rapper said, "Oh, can you put a guitar?"
Yeah, sometimes they'll just throw like a guitar riff over a song, which is kind of cool. Sometimes it works pretty well, but sometimes it's not necessary, and you're just like, "Nah, dude, you don't need it."
Right.
It depends on the song, really.
So when you're recording people, because this is the room that you use for people to record in, and then you have it to the TV. They could see you, you could see them, right?
Yeah, I don't have it where I have it where I can see them from that camera, and there's one right over here, but I don't have it set in my control room so they can see me.
You. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Just because they don't need to see me.
Right. Okay. I didn't know if it was like that, because I've seen
it is set that way. I just never do it, and I don't even know where my camera is for my room. All that stuff was set up when I bought the place.
Because it was already set up. It was already furnished.
Which that needs a fucking upgrade. These cameras, I just don't know what to get. I have no clue what to get for these. They are old. Maybe you can help me out.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely help you out.
Yeah, thank you.
Because that was leading into the kind of software that you use. The other day when you were recording that voiceover with the dude playing the guitar, you were using Logic.
No, I was using Pro Tools.
Oh, you were using Pro Tools. Oh, because it was gray, so I assumed Logic.
Oh, really?
Well, it looked gray.
It might have looked gray, or maybe I was flipping over to. Oh, I was probably flipping over to my console app, which is part of the interface.
So you use Pro Tools?
Yes.
What do you like about Pro Tools that's different from like Fruity Loops and Logic?
Well, I don't know how to use FL at all. I've tried. I can't wrap my head around it.
And Ableton.
It's same with Ableton, man. I can't wrap my head around it. so my experiences with Logic and Pro Tools, I don't know actually specifically. I'm used to Pro Tools. I can work way faster in Pro Tools, and that's why.
Right.
But otherwise, it was Logic for a long time.
Okay. Yeah, because I've heard people say like Fruity Loops is the best or Ableton. I
Whatever,
don't know.
whatever you know is the
Whatever
best.
you know
Honestly,
is the best, yeah.
It's literally whatever you know how to use it.
Is that what you learned in your school was Pro Tools?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But, both, because they give you Logic as a part of this like thing where you get a MacBook Pro. Now I think you get like a Focusrite Scarlett, but when you enroll, you get a MacBook Pro, you get Final Cut for whatever reason, and you get Logic.
Yeah, you get the 5. It's like a student discount.
Yeah,
you get all 5 apps. Yeah, that's what
They throw it in as part of. I'm sure you're paying for it somehow.
Yeah, it's $200 to get like all 5 apps.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you don't even need like a student.
It's the academic
or
version?
anything.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a student bundle.
Well,
and
back then it was the fucking box full of CDs, and it takes all night to install it. Like 8 different CDs.
Yeah,
and you gotta put one
you
in
had
at
to
a
put
time.
you had to put the CD in to download the software.
Yeah,
No.
that's how you install it.
Yeah, none of that.
Yeah, no, none of that.
So when you're recording with the Pro Tools, that's like your thing of because Drake uses Pro Tools and
yeah, a lot of people do. A lot of people use a lot of different stuff. I mean, there's a good bit now, but it seems like the most popular, not FL, well, FL2, but Ableton, thank you, and Logic and Pro Tools.
Yeah, I've heard that Ableton is better for like live. I guess like if you use Logic
apparently.
for live, it's not as good.
Yeah, that's what I heard too, and I don't know why that is, but apparently that's true. Yeah,
I
think it was a looping thing. It had something to do with like being able to do live loops, and you can get these like pedals that attach to or that sync with the program or something. Maybe I don't know.
No, I mean that makes sense.
Ness uses Ableton. And I know there's a time when I had to ask him a question about it because the person brought an Ableton session. And I was like, dude, what the fuck did I do with this? I don't even know. We had to like try to take it out so I can mix it, and I could not figure it out at all. Yeah.
So what's the process to you making everything sound right?
Oh man, well, it's a lot, but
yeah, like your process. So what is it that you do to make sure everything is sounding?
It depends. I guess if we were to use, I don't know, ask me a specific example of something.
So when you're recording, like I guess the bands or just like your most repetitive, repeating clientele.
Yeah.
What are like the steps you take to make sure that you're giving them the best audio quality possible? Let's
go with a simple like vocal session, because is the most common thing. Even for me, it still is the most common type of session. Well, I usually, the camera can't see it, but there's the Lawton Audio Eden mic right there. That's
that one.
Yeah, that one right there. That's the one that Cedric uses too a lot. That's kind of the go-to for any voice, but it starts there.
What does one of those cost?
I think they're $4,000 now. Yeah, I know they're not cheap, but man, you could spend more than that on a mic too.
For sure.
Yeah, but I think it tops what I'll spend, maybe $3,000. Because I
still,
feel like I know it's a lot.
No, but that's good.
Yeah.
Because I would want to record at a studio, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I would like, if I was a rapper or a singer or any vocalist, I would like to record on something that's $4,000 because I can trust it. You know, you get what you pay for.
And it's funny you say that because that's true. You do get what you pay for, and here they're getting more than what they pay for. Seriously, I'm cool with that. I don't want to sound complaining, but but there are people that are like. There are people that call too, and they'll be like, do you have this mic or that mic? And because they saw, I don't know, like Travis Scott or somebody using, like there's the Sony C800, you'll see it's the big black one. That thing is $15,000. I'll never have that mic because I'll never spend that money. And I know people that have used it and say that it's too bright. But then again, actually, a guy did a session. He was one of my regular clients at the time. He did a session somewhere else. He was out of town and wanted me to mix it. So he came back with it, and I pulled up. You never know what you're getting when you don't record the vocal or the song. And people recorded it at home or something, and they want you to mix it, and you're always kind of like, oh God, how is this going to sound?
Right.
Because it needs to sound at least halfway good at first for me to get it sound good at the end.
Right.
The recording has to be good. And it was probably the best vocal recording I've ever heard in my life.
From that mic? From that specific?
Well, that's what I didn't know at the time. I was like, dude, what mic is this? He's like, I don't know. And he pulls up a picture of him in the session. And it was funny because it was a guy in like a attic studio in his house, like blankets and shit hung up, like real janky. In a C800, a $10,000 microphone, but he had like nothing else. But it sounded so fucking good, And the mix came out good because of it. So to go back to your question,
which is the
the mic first, but and of course then I'll get them set up, get them comfortable, get that patched into the room if that's the mic I'm using. Sometimes there's been with new clients, sometimes you don't really know, especially with female vocals, and I'll start with that mic and then I'll realize that mic may not be it, so I'll try another mic, and because that's the good thing about having different mics. Is there's a reason why I might buy this mic this time, right? Because it's like, not because I saw some dude use it, it's because I read about it and it has this type of characteristic or this tone or this whatever. So you got this mic that's good for these type of voices, this mic that's good for the other type of voices, maybe one that's kind of well-rounded. That's a tube mic, which I prefer, but some voices aren't that good with tube mics because they're thicker. You might want something a little more thinner and brittle-ish, and I'll pull out like a U87. So anyways, you start with that, and then I'll patch it in, and almost always I'm using Chandler preamp, which is awesome. It's such a good preamp. And then I always compress going in. And then when it's in Pro Tools, I'll EQ it a little bit while they're recording, while they're singing or rapping. I'll EQ it a little bit. I'll set a little bit of reverb and delay, and that's it. That is it. I see these kids, and I say kids because it's usually these younger guys, and you'll see whatever DAW they're using, and they have like 10 different plugins on the track while the person's rapping or singing. And it's just mind-boggling. My old engineer at my Maryland studio would do that. And he would have so much shit going on while recording that their voice sounds like it's already mixed, but to me it sounded terrible because it was just so thin and bright and brittle. Are we good?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was so bright and brittle.
Yeah, so it was super bright and brittle, and when you can't hear the natural voice. Like I'll do some shit to it while we're recording, but there have been every once in a great while the client will want it to be already processed to death while they're singing or rapping. But I can't do that because I need to be able to hear everything as best I can because I don't want anything masking it.
Right.
So I just don't get how people do that. That's kind of another part of like the hip hop studio guys, the rapper guys. They're the ones that are notorious for that stuff where there's just tons of shit on man. I have like 2 things on it when you're singing, and most people love it that way. I don't know why an artist would want to hear themselves sounding like another person. Wow, it's just weird. It's really weird.
I get that because I with the same thing with like filming. Everybody like adds all these plugins to their edits, and I'm like, dude, you're taking away from like you make your stuff look like crap. And
I mean, do you like with your camera? Yeah, you just rely on the settings, right, that the camera offers.
Yeah, because I went to film school, so I'm a camera operator, not a camera holder.
Yeah,
there's a bunch of people that hold the camera. I operate the camera. Like you can reset this camera back to factory settings, and I'll be fine. If I grab some random kids off the street, probably try and fight me.
No doubt. Yeah.
We'll
so try to steal it. Guarantee you that.
Yeah, that's
especially here. No, so you get it. It's actually, if you think about it, recording audio and filming, there's kind of a lot of parallels, I think, to it because, you got the idea of you got to get it right at the source. You got to rely on the lighting and all that shit because you're not going to add too much of that later. You can to a degree, but you can't go cranking up too much if it was not dark or not lit up enough in the first place.
Well, and also audio. Yeah. Audio is the biggest factor when you're shooting something because people will accept a bad video before they accept bad audio.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
You hear first. Right. Like if something's bad, I'm swiping or I'm closing.
That's true.
I don't want to listen to something bad. But if the audio is good and the visual is bad, they'll still watch it.
I wonder what that is. You think it's just because nowadays they're so used to the cell phone video anyways that it's like, I can overlook that, but I need the sound okay.
Yeah, because there's a lot of posts with bad audio. Like I'll see these ads and like they'll record and like come visit and it's really clipped and distorted and people don't know anything about levels and it's really not difficult to clip something, like
I just don't get why how they play it back though. And they're like, yeah, that's fine. And they post that shit.
Yeah, anytime I shoot any dialogue, I have headphones.
Yeah.
Because but
that's smart.
But yeah, so it just goes back to like even back in the old days, audio is the most important thing. Yeah. That's what they taught us in film school. Really? Audio. Yeah, because if you have bad audio, no, they won't watch it.
Yeah, yeah.
A consumer. The question that I remembered before you got the water was about all these kids. Every time I ask them about music theory, they always say, no, I don't need it. Do you think music theory is essential when doing audio engineering?
No, I mean, no, you don't need it. But if you have it, I don't know. I always look at like, dude, don't you want to stand out from the crowd? So yeah, you don't necessarily need it, but man, knowing it comes in clutch so often. Think about like if you're working with a singer, and yeah, there is a lot of digital tools. Like you want to find the key of a song, but I don't know if you just know at least the basics of it. And you're like, oh well, they're singing in this key. I know that. I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example and I can't come up with one, but I think it helps. Yes, I think it helps. You don't need to know it though.
Okay.
But I think it really, really helps because you're going to be in a situation one day where you're going to need to know it.
To know the pitch.
Yeah. Well, and there's been times, actually, here's a good example. A client brings in a beat and they're singing to it. You need to, you're going to do pitch correction nowadays. You're going to use auto-tune or Melodyne or something. You have to know the key of the song to do that right. You just do, especially with auto-tune. You have to set it to the key. So there have been beats that, like a key, has a certain amount of notes or chords in that particular collection of chords that fits that in that key. So if a song is in F major, the auto-tune has to be set to F major. But there have been beats where they'll have like 2 or 3 chords that could fit in one key, but also another key. So you may be setting auto-tune to the wrong key, even though those notes in that beat particularly, I don't know if this will make sense at all, but those chords in that beat particularly fit in that key, but it still is the wrong key. And if you knew
a little bit about music theory,
yeah, you would be able to discover. And I've been in situations where I couldn't fucking figure it out. I'm like, dude, I don't know. And you maybe guess, or hopefully have a friend. Like I got Cedric. I'm like, dude, what's the key of this? Because he's like fucking genius with music. Like legit talk about music theory. That guy. Like ridiculous. So it's good to have friends
cool.
like that. Yeah. So, but knowing it would be even better because then you're, move on. Plus it's like, again, you're there, your client's paying you money. Your client's paying you more than they make. You want to give them a good service.
Yeah. The best bang for their buck.
You have to, or you're going to fail. And that's just one other aspect. That's like, damn, bro, Tim knew right what to do. Don't you want to hear that? Yes, I do. I want to hear when they leave, like, bro, that was the best shit I've ever had, or whatever.
Yeah, because even walking in here and leaving, it's always like, oh, this is the best studio I've ever been to.
Yeah.
And I don't
you
even...
You could go to a super nice studio, though. If I didn't know what I was doing, all this shit doesn't matter. I could just be some spoiled rich kid.
Like all these spoiled rich kids that buy a Sony, their parents buy them a Sony, they think just...
There's a couple around here in Charlotte, by the way, too, well, really one that I know, but... that are
pretentious, probably.
Well, no, I don't know. If you didn't know him, you may not know he's rich. He's actually not pretentious, but he has his moments.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going my route. Yeah,
no, yeah, but either way, they have money and they still do know what they're doing, but they don't have to worry about taxes and whatever shit.
Yeah, because that's real common when you have all the expensive stuff. People think just because of what you have, makes them think that you're going to deliver. Yeah, and that's not always the case. So that does make sense what you're saying because what you have here, you do have top of the line stuff. So it does, I guess, help with knowing what you're doing.
It does. Yeah, because exactly, because it's like you look at it like I wouldn't have been able to afford to buy that if I didn't know what I was doing to give somebody in the past enough of an experience to pay me to do it. So I made the money to buy it. I guess you could look at it like that.
Yeah, because as you progress and gain more knowledge and experience, you're going to need better tools.
Totally.
And a lot of people like to just, I need it because it's the hottest thing out right now. And then when they do it, it's like, you don't even know what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, that's also why I stay away from some of the digital shit because there's those, I don't know if you've ever seen them in studios. It's called the Raven. And I don't know if they're popular anymore, but they were for a while. And it's just like a big ass touchscreen. And it makes it so you can control Pro Tools with your fingers. I don't know. It looked kind of cool. They made desks that like fit just this one system. So you see these studios and it's like, okay, cool. So you literally just bought into a digital system. So you know right off the bat that is got an obsolescence date, right? It will be obsolete within however many years. Mm-hmm. You just may not know when. So you literally spent $10,000 on a desk, on fucking furniture, and a goddamn touchscreen, only to one day have to just throw it all away because it's not going to work anymore. That's why I stay away from shit like that because it is a waste of money. There's all these these little controllers and stuff.
Because then you have to keep up with the next product. That's
Yeah, because one day the software on the computer is just going to not support it anymore. Mm-hmm. It happened to me. I had a big controller. It looked cool. I was naive to it, and I wanted it because it looked cool. And all it was just like a big glorified mouse, basically. You pull a fader on this thing and it moves it on the computer. It doesn't do anything else. It was convenient at times, but it just looked cool. And one day,
it's like product. Yeah,
it just and they were. I didn't spend this much on it, but they were like $10,000 new, right? This is probably like 2001 maybe or something. Like that's when they were probably new. Our school was full out a whole bunch of them, but again, after I don't know how long, Pro Tools just stopped supporting it. So it's like you got a big fucking mouse that's doing nothing now. I've heard people found a way to like you can get an adapter or something or some sort of like middleman app that makes it so Pro Tools. It's just like stupid. So if you're gonna get something, in my opinion, get something that's like I just got this 1965 amp. It's in my control room now. It's in my control room, but it's like that thing is what 60 years old or whatever. So yeah, 60 years old, and it sounds incredible. Honestly, like the best. It's literally is life for a guitar player.
A lot more
life.
analog things,
and it's gonna be good. Yeah, exactly. So,
because they're built for longevity.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
your
everything's
amps, the ones you brought here.
These ones, yeah.
Yeah, dude, you're good to go with that thing. You might have to get it fixed here and there, but they can be fixed. And they will always be good.
Yeah, because it's analog. It's built by man. It's not built by like a machine or a computer.
Yeah.
So, because like even Apple.
Yeah.
I used to work at Apple back in the day, and
really?
Apple considers their products 5 years old. They consider that vintage, and they consider 7 years obsolete.
So that's their time. Okay, interesting.
So it's just their time to like give support on it.
So that is when they stop supporting.
Yeah, 5 years. Yeah, unless they changed it. That was back in 2018.
I believe you. I bet you that's still the same way.
Yeah, for sure. Because after and I'll make it quick, but just to make a quick point.
I'd love to know these things.
Yeah, so you would call in, they would call in, thank you for calling Apple, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
They would give you their serial number. You would need their serial number in order to see if you would give them service. Because back then you used to have to pay for support.
Remember.
Yeah.
Apple Care was like a $40 fee just to call in.
Yeah.
That was bullshit. Dude, Avid was like that too. The people that own Pro Tools.
Yeah, Avid. Yeah, because they have the Avid the film. Yeah.
I mean, Avid's a huge company, but this is why it pisses people off because of shit like that. I don't know if they do this anymore.
But it's top of the line stuff.
It is. But they're going to, I think, companies like that, though. Apple is one company that's probably, it's one of those like too big to fail type of situations. Yeah. I think it would take something really catastrophic or some serious disruptor in the industry to make Apple obsolete as a company. But I forget where I was going with this. But they oh yeah, that's what I was getting at. People are just gonna get tired of that shit, and then some other company's gonna come out and be like,
free customer service.
or yeah, exactly, and be that company that doesn't do that and win a lot of their customers over, and then they'll switch up and stop doing it. And I think that's what happened with Apple.
Yeah, because it did go free for a little bit, and
but I don't blame them though, because think about the amount of calls they get from idiots at home that don't know how to
for basic stuff,
shit.
So that they would eliminate that. Yeah. So like if their serial number pulled up something that was 5 years old, we would have to deny service even if it was free.
Yeah. That, and again, I get that too, because could you imagine, again, as a business owner, and that's a huge company, I mean, that's a global, they'd have people from all over the place calling you with your 15-year-old fucking
Yo, they would get
iMac.
Pissed. They would get so mad because I couldn't help them, and I was like, bro, go get a new one.
Yeah, right.
But it was just, it's like a marketing gimmick, you know.
But Apple stepped it up, man. I don't know. What do you use to?
I have an Apple.
Which one? Do you have one of the newer ones?
2022. Nah, because I don't need anything new as long as it renders what I need.
I hear you, but these new M chips are fucking fire.
I have an M chip.
Oh, okay. Well,
I have an M chip.
Okay, I didn't know how. Okay, good. Yeah. Because apparently for video editing is where they because that's the shit that eats a computer, right? Is video. Yeah. Apparently these are, because I don't video edit or anything, but apparently that's where these really shine. But I know it was a huge step up from my 2013 MacBook Pro, Mac Pro, that is still running strong back in the back control room, but the new Mac Studio M2 is fucking
and then the Max is even better. Yeah, no, Apple makes some good stuff. They send me a computer.
Yeah, me
plug
too.
them. We just did a whole freaking.
I need a even just for here, even just like a Mac Mini, because what I wanted to do is the listeners may not give a shit about this, whatever, but I wanted to make this room. By the way, to perspective for anybody if they have watched this far, which
they will watch this far.
Goddamn right. This room is, I don't know. Shit, I don't even know the square footage of this. This is a pretty big room.
It's huge.
But I wanted to make it like a control room too, because up there where the TV is, there's behind it, when the side's there, there's behind that grill, there's 2 monitor speakers. They're focal like studio speakers. And the plan was to have this to be like a little mini mobile control room, so people could like use this room and be able to pop in and hit record real quick. But I just needed a computer. I have an extra Apollo. I've got Apollos all over the fucking place. I spent so much money with Universal Audio. Universal Audio should sponsor me, dude. I have spent
them on your.
There's probably studios out there that spent way more than me, I'm sure, but in one swoop, I spent over 10 grand one time just because I needed to upgrade my interfaces. 10 G's, boom, and of course, I love it.
That's what you got to do as a business owner, though. You know,
man, it hurts,
a lot of people are afraid to invest in themselves, so they just buy the cheap ass stuff.
Yeah, or you're like me and you take the invest in yourself idea way too far. And you're like, oh, a vintage guitar. I'm going to need to invest in myself, so I'm going to buy this. When it's like, no, that doesn't count.
Kind of.
Yeah, I know. Right. Thank you for helping me rationalize that.
Yeah, I mean,
my girl, on the other hand, would be like, dude, no. Yeah, even though she's been great about letting my impulse to spend. She's good about allowing that, and it's nice because I'll be like, I could really use that fucking sweater or something.
But can you?
Yeah, but no, she'll be like, yeah, you probably can. Go ahead. And I'm like, fuck yeah. You know what I mean? I don't have the nagging girl telling me don't spend money. She'll, whatever. She knows I'm within reason, thankfully.
No, that's hilarious. So going back to your experience in production and how much knowledge you have and all the hours that you've put in, do you ever feel like you're a real life Tony Stark?
Yeah. No, because he's rich as hell and I'm not. No, I don't know. Tony Stark is cool, more suave and rich, and I'm not cool.
No, you're
definitely
cool.
Not rich. Thanks, man. No, I feel like
because you got that reverse engineering too. You could take stuff apart. You could really I'm sure you could take this amp apart and put it back together.
I wish I knew more about that. To be honest with you, I probably could figure it out. But I also think what I'm doing, anybody could do, and I like having that mindset though because it makes everything seem. Well, I think when something feels more realistic and like anybody can do it, not like easily. Obviously, certain things took me forever, a long, long time to get to the point where I'm at now. But I lost my train of thought, literally.
About taking stuff together and putting it back together and having that abundance mindset.
Yeah, it was something else I was getting at. But
about putting it, but yeah, we were talking about.
I know.
But you lost the point.
Yeah, whatever. But you did say about Tony Stark. Yeah, I don't know. I would consider myself probably more of. Actually, I don't know how I would. That's something I'm going to think about. Is if there's an icon out there, somebody where I could be like, yeah, that reminds me of myself, because I don't know. What about you? I mean, okay, actually, I want to ask you that. Who is your, like I have guitar players and there's like engineers that I look up to, producers usually, engineers, there's some cool ones out there, but they're not like, you don't look at them the same way as like your favorite rock star or whatever. Who's your like favorite film producer, director, or whatever?
So my favorite director would be Ari Aster. He's part of like A24, and then he has a cinematographer
I do like their look.
Yeah, they have a lot of good camera movements, and they make you feel really uncomfortable when you're watching it.
Yeah,
they really know how to make the camera catch emotion.
Yeah.
So I like him and his DP, which is Powell Porgazelski, and they shot Midsommar.
It's interesting you know all that.
Yeah, they shot Midsommar, and he went to school in Santa Fe too, Ari Aster.
Okay.
Yeah, and they shot Hereditary, Midsommar, and then Beau is Afraid. They always work together.
I've never heard of any of those movies.
Oh, really? They're really good movies. Yeah,
really?
Ari Aster actually started with a movie called The Strange Thing About the Johnsons. It's about a stepfather who falls in love with his son.
What?
Yeah, it's like really weird, bro. It's
very.
And that's why I like their movies, because they make things outside of the box and they make you feel uncomfortable when you're watching it.
Interesting. You'll have to text me those.
Yeah, no, I will definitely. Yeah, I like him. I like them. I like James Wan. James Wan did all the Conjuring, the universe. Those are cool. Insidious. Cool. He did Furious 7.
He's Japanese, right?
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
he went to school, and right out of school, he wrote the Saw, the first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he
I had no idea that
Saw.
they were the same Saw and Conjuring.
Well, it's the same director, yeah. And then
Interesting.
and then after that, someone else took him and just took his story and made it.
Saw
like,
got fucking
yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, there's
They
a million
got
of them, but that was
so
his story.
goddamn
Yeah, so that was
crazy.
James Wan. Yeah, I like him, and then
But only the first one.
yeah, only the first one, and then he like
Okay.
produced some of the other ones. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly which ones, but
He
and
probably
then,
makes money off of each and every one of them now too.
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
No matter what he does to it, if he does nothing.
And then I also like Roger Deakins.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him. He did Sicario. He did
That's
Blade
old school.
Runner.
Yeah.
No Country for Old Men.
Blade Runner has like one of the
Shawshank
coolest
Redemption.
soundtrack. Oh, that's my like number 2 favorite movie.
Yeah, that's
Shawshank.
Roger Deakins. He's a cinematographer for
Got
it. Yeah,
you.
so I like all that stuff. And then
I don't see a some movies you can tell a director's or cinematographer's kind of like style. I don't see much of a parallel with Shawshank and Blade Runner, but that's cool too because it's almost like it's fit for the film and not like, oh, that's like you watch Quentin Tarantino movie, you're like, yeah,
I don't like Quentin Tarantino
Neither do
movies.
I. Neither do I. His movies are fucking annoying. I like some of them; they're okay, but I think it's just over the top, and I sometimes wonder how he got to the level he's at.
yeah, and to go back and to touch on like the film school thing, he didn't even go to film school. I mean, you got George Lucas that went to USC
Did he?
or
Yeah.
UCLA, one of the two. He was in
Yeah,
LA and he
yeah.
wrote Star Wars,
Of course. Yeah.
But it's just a whole big commodity too. But that just
Yeah.
goes to you don't need film school because Quentin Tarantino only made 8 films. That was like his thing. The Hateful Eight was his 8th film.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, and he was like stopped after
I
that.
will say my number 1 favorite movie was written by him, though. It just wasn't over the top like him. It's called True Romance. Have you ever seen that? You got to watch it. It literally, it kind of ties between The Lord of the Rings and True Romance. But it's written by Quentin Tarantino, so it has the taste of him a little bit in it, but not with all the ridiculous like Kill Bill, like the head.
Yeah, I
being
don't
cut
like
off and
any
shit.
of
I
that
don't either.
stuff. It's just too
stupid.
fictitious.
Very too. Yeah, exactly. Like you can't. I like a movie at least it's somewhat relatable. Even a fucking Marvel movie has a little bit more like something you can relate to in it more than his shit.
Yeah, I like more of like the oh my gosh, can that really happen type of thing. That's the kind of movies
like
that
Shawshank.
I like.
That's
yeah,
like such a great story.
such a great movie.
Yeah.
And then when I was like coming up in like the content world, I was doing a lot of like car stuff. And there was this dude named Halcyon. He lives in Orlando. He's from New York. He's just a car automotive cinematographer. And I used to watch his stuff. I used to take notes on his stuff.
I think I know who you're talking about with that. And I think I know who you're talking about.
And he used to, I used to like watch his stuff, take notes cut by cut exactly. And I would like kind of
Really?
get inspiration from him. And then in 2021, I actually met him. He saw me rolling around, asked me to work with him. And then,
really?
yeah. And then like that was like the big,
shit.
like,
Cool.
like, that was like it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I worked with him.
Yeah. Hell
Y'all
yeah.
can't tell me. Yeah.
That's dope.
That's
dope.
how it was. So
I saw your one video on Instagram. It was like a Civic or something. Is a fix up Honda.
what color is it?
I don't remember. Green maybe. It looks like it was in a parking garage. You were like, oh, I just checked out that shot, man.
Oh,
Nobody can
there was
touch
a
me.
red Type R.
Oh, was it red?
Yeah, that
Okay.
was in Atlanta.
Was it a Honda?
Yeah, that's Type R.
That
New
was
one.
dope. That was, but what I mean is not even the car. I'm not into cars like that. Although that was a cool car.
Yeah.
But the shot, the way you did that was really, really, really cool. As a matter of fact, I think that's the one that at that point I was like, yeah, I need this guy to come and do a promo video for me. I don't think I would want it to be as flashy as that.
No, I would
But
make.
I know that if you could do that, you could easily do the simple shit that I would want while still
Yeah.
maybe having some bits and pieces where, one guy did a video for me here and he did a really good job and it was a little bit flashy. He did mostly what I asked him and then added a little bit to it. But I know that you could do stuff like that really, really cool.
Yeah, because I base my stuff basically off of like the cinematic stuff. I don't do any of that crazy
Which is
stuff.
what I like, dude. I prefer
Storytelling, narrative,
Yeah.
composition. Just like with audio.
A24, dude, if and I know maybe that I love that look. And if like all my content could be that way, I would do it. I'm sure there's times when that's like a little too dark for regular content, but that's what I like on regular stuff. Like if it was going to be like a documentary style of, I don't know, us tracking a fucking band.
Oh yeah,
or
no, because
something.
everything I do, like I said, is storytelling, narrative based,
Yeah.
and composition. So
So
I
when
definitely
you
could do that.
you like get with a client, let's like pretend that I hired you, and I was like, okay, cool. I need this is actually something I will talk to you about, but let me just say this. So I would like, okay, I want you to come and film. I got a band coming in, and I want to show the process. And so for YouTube. How do you think you would go about that? Would you want numerous people here? Because you may not need it. I'm running back and forth between the rooms at first. So, you figure I'm setting up the mics, you figure from ground up.
So how would I do it?
Yeah.
I mean, I would just basically ask all the questions.
Or
like
storyline it,
yeah,
too.
the storyline.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yo, how long are you going to be here? What exactly do you need? Do you have any examples?
Yeah.
This is what I just kind of just ask like those probing questions. Cool. Yeah.
Because
it's kind of like how you would do it when someone comes in.
Yes.
So just like I asked you, I say, well, what's your process? And then you say, oh, well, I get this mic, I run it into here.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Good.
So the same thing,
Okay.
I do everything with intent and like I said, composition. I make sure everything is just
cool. Yeah,
because I care about it. Yeah, because I care about it. I am passionate.
That's the biggest thing, dude. It's like you got to care about the final fucking product, even if it's something you wouldn't watch. For me, even if it's something I work so much music I do, I don't like.
Right.
But I like it because I got to work on it. Right. So there's a little bit of love for it in there, but it's like just because I don't like it, that doesn't mean shit. You're still gonna have a fucking really good sounding song in the end. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So how do you differentiate profit over profitability?
I don't know. I don't even know how to answer that. What do you mean? Yeah.
Like, passion over profitability. Yeah.
Well, I guess, profit's necessary. It is very important. Money is very important. We can't deny that. It's like we all want to be money, and there's nothing wrong with profit. And that's the problem I think that a lot of people have, where it's almost like you feel guilty collecting money from somebody. And I've been there. Because you have to charge, depending on what you're doing. Like you got a serious amount of time to edit and do all that shit with this. You got to charge for that shit. And it's like sometimes. So I guess to answer your question is, I guess the fact is that profits they both are pretty necessary, but at the same time too, you can also throw in, if I think I understand the question correctly, you can also throw in the whole technical side of things too. So, I'm passionate about, I would probably say that I'm more passionate about the end product of the client leaving happy than I am of the process sometimes. Because it's like, again, there's songs that I have to work on or that I'm paid to work on that I don't like at all. I don't ever hate them, but it's some I don't like. But in the end, they're paying and you've got to give them what they want, and I'm probably more passionate about that than anything else.
Okay.
But I don't even know if I know how to answer the question properly, to be honest with you. But I
that's fair.
I could say though that they're both pretty necessary. Profitability, dude, you've got to fucking make money, period, or else you got no business. And that's just the shitty reality. And if we could all be rich, and I don't know, it's kind of digressing real quick with that. And it took me a long time to learn this, is that you have to approach every situation win-win, whether it is, a business relationship or anything. It's like, okay, win-win. How are we going to do this? If you can't fucking figure that out, then don't do it at all. And that goes with someone paying you money. They're going to pay you a bunch of money, and they may be reluctant to give you like $1,000 to work on their project. They saved up for years to pay for this dream project, they got to leave happy, and you also have to make sure you're not putting in too much time too. So it's, I don't know if that made any sense at all. But it made me think of that too when you asked for the when you asked the last question. But yeah.
I was just wondering to see what you would say, because
long drawn out,
because you almost got into the point that I would say is, well, if I was rich, I would do it for free.
Yeah.
And that's what you were almost about to say. Yeah. So that
I wasn't about to say that, but you say that, and I agree with that.
If I had $1 million, I would shoot for free. I always tell an Eskimo, he's been putting me onto day trading. I'm like, bro, if I make $10K this month, I'm going to go to every person I know and shoot for free.
Yeah, y'all are crazy.
I love doing it.
Be careful with that shit, man. I've just seen so many people where it has gotten, there's more people that lost their shirt over that shit than one.
Oh, yeah. No, I had come from a gambling experience, so I know.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay,
cool.
Cool.
So I know
legal
that
gambling.
Legal gambling.
That's what stock market is.
Yeah. It's I used to gamble like really heavily.
Really?
Like
nice.
In Vegas and stuff,
and
like in a good and bad way. So
really?
I've kind of learned risk management.
That's good.
Yeah, patience.
Yeah,
because you cannot have emotions, bro. Like when you're dealing with any type of business, you can't allow your emotions to come in.
And sometimes it's hard not to.
Yeah,
sometimes it's impossible. I don't know. I'm pretty bad with that sometimes too, where there'll be times where I'll take something personally when it may not be, but I will because, you know what I mean? Or like maybe somebody owes me money and, you know.
When somebody owes you money, you can't be temperamental about that.
And it sucks because, but it does get disappointing at times because there's often times where I am the last person to fucking be paid in someone's life. There's people that still owe me money. I've learned to joke about it now, but it pisses me off.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's money. It's
because I'm at the bottom of your list, and that list just gets longer and longer and longer to a point where it's like, bro, fuck it, keep it. I'm not going to get it. You know what I mean? But just know that just, I don't know. That happened recently with a client, and it was the one rare, every once in a while, I'll trust a client, because people have to pay deposits. And there's a point behind that.
Right.
And there's a legitimate reason. But after you work with them a while, I got plenty of people where I don't ask for a deposit because I know if they say they're going to be here, they're going to be here. And I also know that if they say they can't make it, something legitimate happened. They're not bullshitting me. But this guy got to the point where I wasn't charging him ahead of time. And at the end of the session, he basically was like, oh, my Wix. He said something about his Wix account when it pertained to money. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, Wix is a website company. Like, what the fuck's that got to do with your money? Like, that's not your bank account. So anyways, he said something like that. And I'm like, and I knew right then and there, I'm not getting paid. And I didn't want to be like, man, I didn't want to show that. So I was just, like, all right, cool, get it to me when you can, knowing I'm not going to see that money. Sure enough, for the first couple of weeks, you'd get the, hey man, someone hacked into my account, so my money's frozen. A week later, oh hey man, it's released, but I got to pay these other bills. And after like the third excuse, I said, look man, I already know I'm not getting paid, and just a reminder. And I just reminded him of what he got out of me, and why? And then his response, why would I ever not pay Vocal Inc? I don't want to ruin this relationship. I didn't even answer it, but just let it be.
No,
It's part of the anybody out there, if you're starting a business, it's part of the fucking deal is you're gonna get fucked over sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Somebody out there's gonna. It sucks, but it happens.
Yeah, see, I'm too experienced now to get a fast one pulled on me, bro.
Yeah.
There was this kid just the other day was like, hey, how much would you charge me to do like a retainer, like monthly?
Yeah.
And I gave him my price.
What does he want you to do?
Film like detailing videos.
Okay, gotcha.
And he offered me a few hundred, several hundred less than what I would do it minimum for. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it, but I'm going to have to you're going to have to understand that I will shoot on my phone some of those days because I'm not going to give you my camera. I mean, and he's like, well, it's going to be different. I'm like, bro, 4K is 4K if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then he was like, all right, make a contract. Well, I stayed up to like 1 a.m. drafting a new contract for this fool. Just put it on there. I signed it. I was like, if I'm late, blah, 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 everything.
So a fair contract.
Accountability,
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, well, I can't pay it until you do a vid. And I'm like, bro, I'm not coming to you. I'm not changing my 12-week schedule for you for a day for a sample.
That's what your website and your Instagram is for, that they go there and clearly you did the work that's on there.
Exactly.
That's your fucking portfolio
And then anything that says hashtag shot on iPhone is obviously shot on iPhone.
I didn't even notice you do that. Smart.
Oh, yeah.
So they can see...
Plug me or send me a plug. I plugged Apple millions of times. Send me a phone. Send me a computer.
Using the iPhone?
Yeah, I use this phone. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Deposits are essential.
Well, and I don't know where he's going to find someone that knows what they're doing that's not going to do that.
Exactly, and it's just like
that's just kind of surprising. But yeah, I've had that happen once in mine because most people, I think, when they call here, they know that that it's like, okay, I know I'm going to have to pay for something, and it's honestly, and this is actually something I've told people too, is that you kind of don't really know. I have it on my website. I have a Spotify link where it has some songs that I've done. It's kind of outdated, and it's kind of like some just like better examples of songs I've done, because there's tons, dude. There are so many out there I've lost track of, but I'm not going to put them all on there. But either way, most people know that it's like you don't really know yet that you're going to leave here happy. You just kind of hope. So I don't know, and I tell people, I was like, look, you don't know for sure, but I can tell you all day that I got you. You're going to be fine. You're going to like what you get, but you don't know that, so I understand it. But at the same time, it's like that's just part of the gamble of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
and
not
it's
really. I don't know, but most people don't look at it as a gamble. Your guy,
And I also charge him several hundred less. It's like, bro, I don't
think he could afford it to begin with.
Yeah, and he was like, my accountant said, why can't you just come here and give me a sample of it? It's like, bro, because what you're paying me for the month, I charge people for one video.
I would love to know. His accountant is probably his fucking homeboy.
Yeah, I don't think he has an
mom.
accountant.
No,
I think he was
doesn't.
just, no.
He doesn't.
And for the record, it was only $1,000. It was like way less than what I would charge just for phone.
Yeah.
And because I don't like giving, because, my prices change. Today's price is not tomorrow's price.
Right.
And he was like, oh, bro, I'm just like, dude, if you can't afford it, just don't. I'm not like, bro, what you're doing.
It does kind of suck though. But I don't get why people don't consider the time another person takes even just to draft up the contract. That blows my mind sometimes that people just don't even think about if they know. He had to know that it was probably going to be a no before you went and made a fucking contract, but he didn't consider enough the fact that you're going to take time to write that up.
And I even put, if I don't deliver the finished product within 48 hours of my shoot day, I give you 15 back every day.
So that's pretty fair. That's very fair. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. These kids are out of control.
Bro, I'm telling you. He'll learn, hopefully.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest mistake people make when opening up an audio engineering business is?
One thing is your interactions with people and how you talk to them. There's people I know that they just don't have a personality. Mm-hmm. You're spending at least a couple hours with the person and they're sharing pretty intimate moments, pretty vulnerable moments when they're singing, let's say. And if you're not good at not only making them comfortable and kind of at ease or whatever they may need, but just making them feel like, all right, cool, I can get along with this person. You know what I mean? They have a personable personality. You're going to lose them. You know what I mean? And it can affect the song. I've seen it happen just by me being in a bad mood, and I learned to turn that shit off when it comes time to work. You may be in a bad mood, bury that for the next couple hours, and, don't let it show, because I've seen it literally ruin songs. It's interesting how that works, but it does. It's just a vibe thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
energy
I think
is everything.
Yeah, exactly. But that's a big thing. I see people that, they're just not nice. They're not, they're asking for money or whatever. They're kind of demanding about it. You got to be polite about things. If somebody calls and, they want to know your rates, like if you're just kind of straight and bro, it's $90 an hour. You know what I mean? I don't know. Just like talk to them a little bit. Try to get to know them.
Yeah, you have to build a rapport,
be
build
a
a
fucking
relationship.
human being.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like in the end, it makes it easier on you too, because it makes your job just more fun, I guess. But yeah, I don't know, because I know when I go anywhere, if it's like kind of like if you go to a drive-through and the person just doesn't say anything and they're just handing you the money. Yeah, I mean it's a quick interaction. It's not going to ruin your life, but it's much better when they're like, "Hey, thank you," and shit like that.
Yeah, a lot of people. Like they're late because I make comments like not to them, but like I'll make comments like whoever I'm with. I'm like, bro, why is this fool having a bad day? It's like I don't know, and and it's just like, bro, and then it kills my vibe. They're handing me well, I don't eat fast food like that, but like when they're handing me the stuff, or like if we make any sort of interaction. We're exchanging energy. Now your energy's rubbed off on me, and people don't believe that, but it's true.
It does. It's contagious, and it's if you're pissed off, and people can absorb that. I'm big on that. Like I can't help it, but if you're in a bad mood and you're around me, I might absorb that a little bit. I'm not good at being like, that's their own problem. Sometimes I'll be like, oh well, fuck you too. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with me, but it could be that way. Yeah,
because I think actually in the 48 Laws of Power, law number 10 is avoid the unhappy and unlucky.
Is that the one?
I think that's law number 10, because it's true. Like if you're around people who are unhappy and unlucky, just like a pear or an apple, you bad fruit on a tree, it grows to the other. All the mold. You cut the bad fruit off the tree, make a sacrifice, and.
What's your favorite 48 law?
I don't know, dude. There's I like that one. I like the isolation is dangerous. I like that one because I don't like being. I like to isolate.
I love isolation, but I know
you're not supposed
to.
Yeah, you're not supposed to, because you could get. They could get
depression
you.
and shit. Well, that's what
they could get you more when you're alone than when.
I forget. He always used a lot of like examples.
I like the I forget which one it is, but it's if you don't, it's never trust in friends, learn how to make enemies. Yeah. If you don't have any enemies, find a way to make them.
He did have that one.
I think that's law number 2.
I like the one that I forget what the law was, but he mentioned the story of the guy that he went and borrowed $5,000 from Al Capone, knowing. Well, the goal he was saying, if you lend me this money, I'll come back with it doubled for you. I have this thing, whatever the fuck it was. But he didn't have anything. He knew what he was doing. He wanted to get on Al Capone's good side for other shit. So he took the money, he just put it away for like a week. And he came back to Al Capone. He's like, look, I'm really sorry, but that fell through. And apparently right before Al Capone was about to kill him or something, because he's like, but here's your money back. I was able to at least give you all your money back. He made it look like he lost all his money, but you didn't lose any money. And then I guess the point in that is that he was forever in his good graces or something. Never Outshine the Master. I think it's number one. I always write out. I think it's number one. That's a good one.
No, I don't know if that one's that, because Never Outshine the Master is about.
It's one of the early ones though. It's not Outshine the Master. My example wasn't, but I think rule number one is Never Outshine the Master.
Yeah, Never Outshine the Master, and like a lot of people are. Yeah, a lot of people actually.
That's a good one to know for, when you're not the master and you're around somebody. Just try to remember that a little bit, because it's not even like I don't know. I think if you go in, some people think that like an example, like a new employee at a place, and they're trying to impress their boss, so they're trying to be extra good.
Because that's what happens in the book. I forgot his name, but he throws
Robert Greene?
No, not Robert Greene. In the book, it
was one of the kings or something.
Yeah, it was one of the kings.
No. I don't think it was a king. I think it was
a king, and then his jester threw a huge party.
Right.
And the king was like, I don't like this. Yeah. And then he killed him.
Or I think he got him for treason and something stupid. Yeah. But it's true, and it's like, you could look at it like, oh yeah, you got to make sure to appease the ego of the master. And it's not always like that. It's just kind of like, I don't know, I look at it kind of like just chill if you're around the guy that's your boss or whatever. And he's, just, you don't have to be the one that also knows everything too. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you know everything, then that means you should probably stop doing what you're doing.
But you don't. Nobody knows everything anyways.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
What would be some advice you would tell your younger self from today?
Man, lots.
What's the biggest one that you
I don't know what the biggest one would be, but I probably, this is probably advice I could still give myself, but stop and take a tick. Take a breath before reacting, because reactions can create some really messed up situations if you're don't stop and think about it. And there's been times where I've done that, but stop, breathe, and but if I had time to think about that, I could give you a list. We all could. But probably just stop and think about before you react, something like that. Yeah,
I like that.
Cool.
What's the legacy you want Vocal Inc. to leave in Charlotte?
I just want to leave the legacy to where the studio can just keep going, man. I want it to be, I wouldn't mind, because we got the Nashville thing going on. I wouldn't mind it to be somewhat regional in a way where it's not just a city, where we kind of got a thing going on. I don't know. I don't want it to be too big, to be honest with you, because I just wouldn't want to manage all that. But really just any legacy where they know that was the place, man. That is the place, or was the place to go. They knew what they were doing. When you needed something done, that was the fucking place to go to. I'm not going to lie. I think it's pretty close to that in a way, but I'm still new here, so I doubt, there's a lot of locals that would probably laugh at me at that statement. But I think that
most of the locals are just kids.
True.
What do they know?
Or the competition, so they're going to laugh anyways. Yeah, even 10 years from now, I could say something like that. They're still going to laugh. So that's fine. That's to be expected. I think, I do think, though, in the three short years, it grew better than I thought it would. And I think it's got a really good trajectory, despite some serious economic shit that happened a couple years ago. Inflation fucked me hard, dude, because of the loan that I had to get, things like that. But and it survived it. And so this is a tough city to have a studio like this in, but it is one of the three big studios in town, and I think it's the one that has a little bit more of a personality, because when I see some of these other ones, it's just, even like you go on the social media, I just feel like there's no personality there. You know what I mean? But I don't know, though. I've never asked anybody, outside of here, that how they think of that. But I just know, the people that come here, they like it and they leave happy. That's
nothing more.
All I care about, dude.
Nothing more satisfying than a happy customer.
Dead serious, yeah. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and end it
Cool.
off with
Yeah,
that.
man. Thanks, dude.
Oh, I know I took a lot of your time.
No, you're good.
I know you probably have a busy schedule after this, but
Yeah.
is there anything else you
What time
can
is
leave
it,
your...
actually? Oh, no, we're good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been like hour 20. You need anything else?
Nah,
Plug
man.
your Insta.
Yeah.
Let them know where to
I mean, if
find
you
you.
search Vocal Ink Production, Instagram, and, obviously sessions, call us up.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and leave the Instagram down below in the description.
Cool.
So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. And I appreciate you guys for making it this far to the end of the most versatile podcast in the world, the Bean Dip. If you have anyone you admire or aspire to be like, let me know in the comments below, and we'll do our best to get a hold of them. And they'll be right here with me. So we've already got Cap G here.
Yeah.
We're probably going to get a lot more artists with, the serious artist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly.
remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all next week on the next episode.
Nice. Hell yeah, dude. Thanks, bro. That was
Like
good.
You like that?
Yeah, I like that a lot. Oh, I'm not used to wearing fucking headphones like that, too.